What about the photo that popped up today in the Daily Mail about the man affectionately known, not so affectionately known, I should say, as Dodgy Darryl, of course? There he is, photographed in Wagga Wagga, smoke in hand, gun in the other, both, of course, legal products but deeply frowned upon. Obviously unhappy that he and his dealings have ultimately led to the end of the New South Wales premiership of Gladys Berejiklian. Now, let me say this. It's not about Gladys Berejiklian being a nice person or not a nice person. Anyone who has been paying attention knows that there were big issues coming out of ICAC last year. What she knew, what she didn't know, what she declared, what she didn't declare were always going to be an issue. There was always a contingency that something was going to happen, be it initial reports into the Darryl Maguire situation coming out of ICAC or the other shoe to drop. Well, that shoe has now dropped and there will be a 2-week investigation into the former Premier of New South Wales. It's 10 days and it is all about her. Yes, it's all still about Darryl, but it is all about her for 2 weeks. What did she know? What did she declare? What did she not declare? And given that that would be a death by 1,000 cuts, she decided to do the thing that shocked the public but was absolute, that she blew up herself politically and in fact fell all the way, not just out of the premiership, but out of politics completely. Now, there are 2 ways that you can view this story. The people who, like you and I, watch every little granular thing when it comes to politics, and that's why you got these sorts of headlines kind of uniform across the news from the people who talk about this all day, every day. The editorial, even in the Channel 9 papers, was it was terrible pity, but she had to go. Similar opinion was being put in the Telegraph that she had to resign. Also worth noting too, our very own Andrew Clennell, who wrote for the paper of which he used to before he got his gig here, and we love him being here, said that she's been brought down by the letter of the law. Interestingly, the Australians' perspective on it was that it was a resignation and a loss for both the state and the nation, and that is true. But can we talk about some of the reaction to what has happened here? Not whether it was the right or wrong thing. I'll get to the whole process of ICAC in a second. It is a star chamber, but it is a star chamber who has claimed many before most, well, they end up either being cleared or don't end up going to court. But the public reaction is something I have never seen in all the time that I've cared about politics, let alone talked about it on television. Not just an outpouring of people who were able to find a microphone and talk to when they were a little bit shocked, but people who decided to leave floral tributes, people who posted messages of support and love, not on Twitter, but on the walls of her office in northern Sydney. This was a very popular person, and because of the pandemic, her pandemic management and how close New South Wales is to reopening, that daily sense of connection with Gladys Berejiklian is in part what you saw in the reaction. But what about the reaction of some of the TV news? This is just part of the way things were covered on Friday and Saturday. And I'll be honest, it was like she had died. Have a look at this.
But publicly, many are grieving, friends and strangers alike acknowledging the popularity of Gladys Berejiklian.
Pasted with well wishes from a state mourning the loss of a leader.
I'm feeling very sad about it, actually, yeah. I'm sorry to see her go.
You were a once-in-a-lifetime premier. Thank you forever.
I cried. I absolutely cried.
Now, these people aren't wrong. They can do whatever they want, but I've never seen this for a politician who has gone, especially someone who, if you've been paying attention, has always had this issue of ICAC hanging around. The assumption was that she'd skipped out of it last year when there were attempts to bring life back into it by, among others, the ABC in the past few months. Those questions got shut down. But again, the reaction was not like a normal politician's resignation.
At her electorate office, more flowers, cards, tributes, all day they came, paying their respects.
We're all devastated. We're devastated for Gladys.
Shocked and angry.
Also, the word grieving, I repeat, I don't like saying it, but the reaction was not of a politician who had just resigned under the question of ICAC, but like something even bigger had happened.
Public display of grief for the downfall of a premier.
As an online petition seeks 10,000 signatures to stop her going. It might be too late for that.
And didn't TV News love the flowers?
Quick to rally in support were those she represented.
That was a thank you card to Gladys, and I think she's been the best premier this state has ever had.
Cards and flowers delivered to her electorate office in Northbridge.
Now, the story of Gladys Berejiklian, the human being, is a classic Australian story of a child of immigrants who was able to not even speak the language but eventually become dux of her school and then Premier of a state. It is a phenomenal story of the modern Australia. But again, this was the coverage on the 6 p.m. news when the Premier had resigned because ANZAC was about to investigate her.
Name that was hard to pronounce and a future that was hard to imagine. The little girl who spoke only Armenian until the age of 5, but had a motto for life.
So long as you work hard and do your best, you can do anything.
Gladys Berejiklian took that determination from the Student Representative Committee at high school to universities and the Young Liberals, a political path driven by hard work, discipline and competence.
Now, I've always got along with her. I've supported her premiership. I think she was a great leader for New South Wales. Little known fact, we went to the same primary school a few years apart and she grew up literally around the corner from where I did. So I'm very proud of the 2113 North Ride Strong thing. But again, the reaction was very extreme. Like people who decided to do this on Friday night and decided to share it all over the internet, with people who were quote unquote putting their blazers out, the people who literally hung blazers out the front of their house or saluted her like she was an ANZAC. This seemed to be everywhere on the internet. It's a weird tribute because remember, that is invoked by put your bats out. That was after Philip Hughes died on the cricket pitch at the SCG a few years ago. Yet the same tribute being offered to a politician who has gone out for ANZAC.